Coming up on Finding Better podcast, we have so much technology all around us, you and I, all of us, to keep us connected with other people. And yet, most of us feel more disconnected than we've ever felt before. Keith Spurgin is joining me, and we're going to talk about this. Why is this happening? And what can we do about it? What can we do to get reconnected and more connected with other people? And it's especially relevant in the world we're living in today of artificial intelligence. And it is moving forward faster than anything we've ever seen before. So please share this. Here we go. Hello, 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 and welcome back to our Finding Better podcast. My name is John Suzuki, and I am your host. And just to keep the intro short, this is where we share real life experiences because sometimes the best path to success is to follow in the footsteps of people who have been there and done where you want to go and what you want to do. We're going to have an amazing conversation today. My guest is Keith Spurgin. Keith, welcome to Finding Better.
Thanks, John. It's great to be here with you. Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
we're going to have a great conversation. Keith is an author and he's an overall amazing guy. But he wrote a book called Unknown: Finding Connection in a Disconnected World. Okay, let me repeat that. Unknown: Finding Connection in a Disconnected World. Any of you guys feel more and more disconnected all the time? We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about people. We're going to talk about living in basements. We're going to talk about all this stuff, right? Because it's all about anyway. It's a USA. His book again, Unknown: Finding Connection in a Disconnected World, is a USA bestseller, and it meets people where they are and reminds them of what really matters. We're going to talk about that. So, Keith, kick us off. What really matters?
Ooh, that's a big question, John. That's a big one. I heard a quote many years ago that went like this: Life is relationships. The rest is just details. And I think that's really, really true in
I
so
love
many
that.
ways.
It
Yeah.
is, yeah, there's no question. All right,
Life
sorry,
is
keep going. Yep,
relationships. The rest is just details. I think about leadership, for example. People want to be about systems and this and that and the next technology and all that. And it's
right.
all helpful, it's all good. But at the end of the day, leadership is all about relationship. You're not
It's
going to move
all about
anybody
people.
from here to
Yep.
there if you don't have a connection. And I think
No,
everything's like
that's
that.
right. That's right. It's all about relationships. And, I distill it even further and I say it's all about love. It's all about heart, right?
Yeah.
And, people have heard this ad nauseum that, the only thing you leave this planet with, when we're all done with whatever we're here for, is what we have in our hearts, right? And the love we take
Yeah.
with us. And so, so let's talk about this relationship aspect because, and when you said that, it was one of those light bulb moments in my head of that connection part of it.
Yeah.
Because I've been in technology for 40 years. I started with IBM in 1986, and so now you guys know how old I am. Um, but technology has brought us closer in many, many ways, but it's also driven us apart in many, many ways.
Yeah.
So when you say finding connection in a disconnected world, tell me what the disconnected world is.
Well, you just named really the premise of my book, which is really
Okay.
simply that we are more technologically connected than ever in
Hmm.
the history of the world. Nobody would argue that. I mean, I can drive down the road in my car, and regularly I do this. I'll be driving down the road in my car talking to somebody on a different continent, Africa, Europe, Asia,
Yep.
wherever. I'm driving down the road doing this real time. And what we don't realize is 30 years ago that would be considered science fiction. It's like there's no
Totally.
way. There's no way you can do that. And we just do it without even thinking about it. So we are more connected, and there's so many other examples, connected technologically like never before. And yet all the surveys and all the research show over and over and over again we are more relationally disconnected than we've ever been. as a species. And that is so counterintuitive and counterproductive for how we're designed as humans. We're designed for connection. And you know, as a tech guy, when you use a product or use anything in a way that it's not designed to be used, that always turns out bad.
Right.
That's what's
That's
happening
called,
to us as humans.
yeah, unintended consequences.
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
even worse, intended consequences. And because when we talk about technology, and I think about, we think about connection, and you go, okay, Facebook, right? Instagram, all these different things, right? And it brings people together. But you know
Yes,
what? You got the dopamine hits, which are intended, right? You got
absolutely.
which leads to the addiction, and leads to really bad behavior because you're behind a screen. In the old days when you and I were growing up, if someone had something bad to say to us, we'd know who they were. We'd
Hmm.
track them down. We'd go to their house, and we'd duke it out. Right? And people
Yeah.
were much more careful in what they
Yeah,
said
you didn't
because of
do
that,
that because you didn't want
right?
somebody coming to your house.
Yeah, yeah. And so that what it in terms of that disconnection, why did and we might have just talked about it, but why in this massively connected world, what is it that's driving that disconnection?
Well, I think there's a lot of layers to it, but one of the ways I
Yeah,
like to talk about it is it creates pseudo community, a false sense of community, like an artificial community. It's like,
right,
oh, I'm connected. I've got all these followers. I've got all these people liking my stuff.
right,
But who is my inner circle? Who are the people I'm really doing life with and I'm really talking about real stuff with? Not people online that like me or connect with me or whatever. And this was really driven to home to me last month, or it was actually back in February. I was doing a podcast interview with a guy who works with influencers, social media influencers.
hmm,
And he said it is unbelievable how many of these people are completely lonely. They have hundreds of thousands, if
oh
not
my gosh.
millions of followers. He said they call me up and they're like, I just need somebody to talk to. I just need somebody to connect with. I don't have anybody. I'm just like,
Oh my
this is
goodness.
insane, but it's exactly why I wrote this book.
Really?
Yeah.
That is crazy. That is crazy. And wow.
So I think pseudo
So
community, this false sense of community, a false narrative in our heads, even when we look at other people's lives, like especially online, we have these curated lives that get pictured online. And I'm not against social media. I'm not against technology. I think they're all useful tools, but they are not the answer. Um,
right.
Other humans, connecting with other humans, that's what we desperately need, whether we want it or think we need it or not. We absolutely need it.
Yeah. It really is, the whole idea of that of loneliness. I mean, it is an epidemic,
Yeah,
right?
50% of Americans say they're lonely.
Well, there's a disconnect right there.
50%.
I want to go back to a couple of things. Um, I was listening to, and I forget his name, Zach. First name was Zach because I met him, but he was one of the first people working with Sam Altman on ChatGPT.
Mm,
And one of the things that he talked about was the future. And a
mm,
question that was given from the audience was, what should we do with our kids in this future that you're talking about? And nobody knows what the future is going to hold, but in a sense, everybody knows what the future is going to be. It's
mhm.
going to be full automation. It's just going to be a totally different world. What should we be doing with our kids? And you know what the guy said?
What?
He says, get them outside in the sunshine,
Yes.
playing with other people.
Yes.
And he spent 10 minutes talking about that on the importance of, the human factor
Hmm.
and building relationships and understanding and building the people skills, right?
Yeah.
And and you know, and of course, as you learn the people skills, as you feel more and more comfortable feel working with people and being with people, you know, that helps with the loneliness issue,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. I told my kids growing up, I said, guys, you don't understand yet what an advantage you have because we're teaching you how to do relationships. And
Yeah,
we have friends, we have neighbors we connect with.
it's
We go to church with people that are your friends. We you have school friends, we have all these organizations that we're part of. You are getting this massive advantage over your peers that you as teenagers, of course, they didn't. What are you talking about that? But once they got out in the workforce, it's like they've just excelled, not because they're the smartest kids in the room, but because they know how to connect with people.
yes,
And if you
yes,
don't know how to do that, I don't care how techie you are, at some
right.
point, you're going to be in trouble if you can't connect with people well.
And I want to segue into AI in just a second. But one of the things I flashed on as you were talking a little bit earlier about how you're driving down the road and talking to somebody in another part of the world,
Hmm.
right? I think back. There's a movie called Shogun, right? Or any you know movie of the Knights of the Round Table or whatever in the
Yeah.
16th, 17th, 18th centuries, right? They say that we live better than kings of those days.
Hmm.
And one day I was watching Shogun, and I realized, the guy who became marooned in Japan, right? He didn't have a cell phone.
No, no.
He had no way of, you know, I mean, you just look at all the things that we have today. But at the same time, the other dynamic of back then was that because they didn't have technology, they all they had was dealing with people,
Hmm.
right? All they had
And
was
you got to
their
figure it
real
out.
community, and you got to figure out, or someone's going to come and lop your head off,
Yeah,
right? And so,
exactly.
but anyway, I got off on a tangent. Okay, so we talked a little bit about technology. We talked about Facebook. We talked about loneliness and all those things. Let's talk about where we're going. You know, especially in this new era of AI,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because one of the things, um, one of my jobs when I in my prior life was doing a lot of speaking.
Hmm.
And one of the things I told people is that someday as technology has made us smarter and smarter and smarter, we've gotten so smart we've forgotten our heart. And
Yeah.
we are going to experience a renaissance of heart, a renaissance of love that's going to be driven by technology. And artificial intelligence, and I'm seeing that happening right now beneath our feet, where artificial intelligence is coming in and literally anything that has to do with quote unquote intelligence, right? AI can do faster, better, cheaper than any human can.
Hmm.
And and now all of a sudden, I feel like the only thing we're going to have left is our humanity. So where do you see the world going? And in this seemingly increasingly disconnected world.
Yeah.
And what can we do about it?
Yeah. Well, the bad news first.
Okay.
Um, I read a statistic recently that 70% of teenagers have artificial friends, companions, AI companions,
Right.
and about half of them believe that those companions are better than having real friends, which is incredibly disturbing to me. It's
Yeah.
understandable though, because what we've got is a situation where we have a bunch of adults who don't know how to connect, who are raising kids and don't know how to connect with them, and then don't know how to teach their kids how to connect. And so it makes so much sense to me that teenagers are like, yeah, that's way better because, I get along with that AI companion and
Right.
they like me and
Right.
they tell me nice
Right.
things about myself and I don't
Right.
have to deal with my issues and all the things, that depth of relationship produces.
And then here come the robots.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, I like to share this metaphor. It's not original with me, but I think it's super helpful for people. So what we end up doing is we hop from one relationship to another, or we hop from job to job to job, or whatever it is. Last year, Megan was my best friend. This year, Mark's my best friend. I don't know who it'll be next year, and what does it even
Yeah.
mean? And
Hmm.
so there's this great analogy about young trees. If you take a young tree and you plant it, and it starts to grow, and then you uproot it and replant it, it'll survive because trees are resilient and it'll do well. But if you continually uproot and replant that tree, it will never reach its full potential and it'll never mature. And it won't bear the fruit that it was intended to bear. That same thing is true for us as humans. When we continually replant ourselves over and over and over again, and we don't have long-term relationships that where we have to work through conflict and difficulty and disagreements. We have this cancel culture, where we just, you disagree with me, I'm done with you. I don't want anything to
Right.
do with you.
Right.
So what we end up doing is replanting ourselves either geographically or relationally or whatever over and over and over and over again. We never mature to become the humans that we are designed to become. We never bear the fruit. We never reach our potential because we are stunted in our growth because we're constantly switching relationships up and being replanted. And I think to your question, part of the answer is helping people begin to understand, hey, it's not helpful to just keep switching relationships all the time. Actually, what's really beautiful and what's really helpful is to learn how to work through difficulties, how to work through conflict, how to
Right.
work through disagreements, because that's when you're going to mature and become the kind of person that other people want to be around and are drawn to and attracted to. And man, you can do anything if you learn how to do that.
That is so antithetical. I mean,
To our
you just said
culture
to
right
to our
now.
culture, right? I mean,
Yeah.
but what's happening is, with these teen and people, not just teenagers, but
Yeah.
as
No.
I'm learning AI, right? I mean, it is really cool. I mean, I just built my own website for crying out loud. I am a hack. And people say that I've been in tech. I have been in technology for 40 years, but and in technology sales, but I don't know technology.
Yeah.
And I remember one time I was flying back. I was working for IBM at the time, and it was when the PC was coming out. And I was sitting next to someone on an airplane, and they said, "Hey, you work for IBM? Wow, can you tell me about how to work my PC?" And I looked at them. And I said, "You know what? This is not going to sound right to you, but I just sell it. I don't smoke it." And they looked at me, and I said, I know how to sell. Well, how do you know how to sell it if you don't know how to use it? And I'm like, well, I don't know, but I was successful for 40 years. And so, it's, I just totally lost my train of thought. What was I going to
We were
say?
talking about the being uprooted and
Oh,
not
yeah,
maturing. Yeah.
yeah. And so, um, as part of that, I look at my life, and, you know, conflict is inevitable in a relationship. I just
Absolutely.
celebrated my 40-year anniversary with the same woman.
Hmm.
And I'll tell you something, I have given her 1,000 reasons to leave me,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And thousands of reasons to leave
Yeah.
me. And and what strikes me in what you said is that, as we bounce around, why do we bounce around? Because there's conflict, because something goes wrong, because
Yeah.
because someone pisses us off, pisses us off. We're pisses us off.
Yeah.
We're in this cancel culture. We're trained to just say, I don't agree with you. Go away.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And yet, what you're saying is that to grow and to build relationships, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, right? What boys do is they get into an argument and they punch each other out. And after they're done with the argument, they're better friends than they were before they got in the
Yes.
argument, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
yet, I feel like in today's culture, um, the easy way is forget punching, just leave. Go find somebody else to be friends with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. There's a guy named Gary Smalley who wrote a bunch of books and used to do seminars and stuff. He's passed away now, but I learned more about relationships from him than anybody I've ever known. But he used to say, conflict handled well is the doorway to intimacy. And I
Yeah.
just have found that to be so true. When
Say
we
that again. Say
press
that
through,
again. Say that
conflict
again.
handled well is the doorway to intimacy. Because until you have a conflict, we don't really know each other. I know a version of you. I know what you want me to know. But until we get in a conflict, I don't really know you. It's only
Right.
once we get in a conflict. Now I know some stuff. Now I know how you really feel about some things. Now
Right.
I know
Not
some of your weaknesses. I know some of your issues. I know so much more about you because we had a conflict. When we work through that and we get to the other side of it, now we're closer than we ever were before. It's like a romantic couple, says, "Oh, we had this terrible fight, but making up was great." Well, what are they
hmm
saying? We worked through our conflict, we got to the other side of it, and now we're closer than we were before. That's how relationships are supposed to work. And as you said, there is no human relationship on the planet that you're going to have with anybody where there's not going to be some disagreement, some conflict, some I see it this way, you see it that way. Partly because we're all broken people. None of us are perfect. None of us have it all figured out. So every relationship you have on this planet, I'm excluding relationship with God, but every relationship you have
hmm
on this planet is going to be with another broken person, and you're broken. So why are we surprised that we have conflict? Why are we surprised that we have disagreements? Why are we surprised that I see it this way and you see it that way? Well, of course. But when we just write people off and we cancel people because of that, we're missing out on the beauty of what could come on the other side of that if we would stick it out. Like your marriage of 40 years, you guys probably know each other. I mean, I can't even imagine how much better you know each other than you did 40 years ago. It's not even, it's like, who is that? I don't even know that person. But now it's, oh my gosh, how
Yeah.
well do you know each other now? And there's so much life in that and beauty that comes from that when you keep pressing through.
And God exists because she's still
Yes.
with me. I mean,
Yes.
it
Because we would
is
have killed each
a
other by
miracle.
now.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I've been
And
married
yeah,
38 years, and I
awesome.
often say it this way, John. I say, look, I've been married to the same woman for 38 years, but I've had like five different wives because she
Oh,
keeps
interesting.
changing and
Yeah.
growing
Yeah.
and
Yeah. She's
developing and learning new
right.
things. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a new wife. This is awesome.
That's a fun way to look at it. That's a fun way to look at it. Yeah, there are like 10 different me's that my wife actually threw away.
Yeah.
Um, but
Or
here we are. It's still
trained you
good.
out of.
Yeah, yeah, trained me out of it. Yeah, a couple of things. No pain, no gain.
It's
When it comes to
true.
building strong relationships, I mean, as you were talking, I just thought to myself, no pain, no gain. And
Yeah.
the other thing that came up in my mind was embrace conflict, folks. Embrace it, right?
Yes.
Learn from
Yeah.
it. One of the things that I learned from an old friend of mine was always assume positive intent. You know,
Mm,
you know, and
yeah.
and and I've never forgotten that. And
That's really hard to
because
do, by the way,
it's
but it's
hard to
so
do,
important.
especially when someone's coming at you and you think they're attacking you, you think they're criticizing you, you think they're,
Yeah.
that they're doing something bad. I sit back and I go, assume positive intent, and I go, okay, so whatever they're coming at me with, they I try to set a frame of mind that says their intentions might actually be good. You hear
Mhm.
of, do you want uh what's the word? Something criticism, helpful criticism. When people ask that question, do you want what's that term called? Something criticism. Anyway, um,
Uh, I'm not sure where you're going.
okay. Anyway, um, what you said about relationships and building strong relationships is so true. And it goes back to, what I said about two boys disagreeing with each other, punching each other out, and dealing with the conflict and becoming better friends than they were
Yeah.
before.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
but you know what? That requires courage. That re
It sure does. It sure
Why
does.
don't people, why don't, yeah,
And AI requires no courage.
yeah.
It doesn't.
I think you just answered my question.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying AI is bad necessarily. I think, I use it sometimes. I'll write an email and I'll run it through AI and improve this, or before I do a post or whatever, and I think it's helpful. And I think even AI could help people who are dealing with anxiety as they're listening to us right now and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to connect with anybody. And you could go on AI and say, how do I have a low bar connection with somebody? And I think it could be helpful, to figure those kind of things out. So I'm not against that stuff. I just think when that stuff, whatever the stuff is, social media, AI, whatever AI companions, when that becomes the answer, I think we're in trouble because
Yes.
we are designed for connect. Brene Brown, you probably know who she is. She's a
Hmm.
researcher, author, professor. Anyway, I love her quote. She says, "We are hardwired for connection, and when we don't have it, there is suffering." And I just love
Now,
that quote.
okay, so you didn't say the quote didn't say human connection. So people out there
That's what
could
she's
say,
referring to, though.
yeah, but people out there could say, well, you know what? I'm making my connection through my AI best friend.
Hmm. And I would say that's a pseudo connection. It's sort of it's a form of connection, but it's not the same as another human that you're interacting with in their imperfections and your imperfections coming together, figuring it out, and finding, as you said at the beginning of this podcast, the highest value in the universe, which is love. But here's the thing, and I believe this to my bones. Love without sacrifice is not love. It might be affection, it might be attraction, it might be it might, whatever, but love requires sacrifice. And love without sacrifice is not really love. And so an AI companion is not going to cause you to sacrifice anything. It's all about you. And as humans, we need that. We need that challenge. We need that depth of connection. We need the challenge of pressing through difficulty and conflict and pain and finding something beautiful on the other side of it. I think we are designed for that. I think we're hardwired for it. And I think when we don't have it, we are a shadow. We become a shadow of what we were designed to be.
One thing we talked about loneliness earlier, and we talked about 70% of teenagers have an AI partner or an AI relationship
Companion. Yeah.
companion, and 50% of those teenagers prefer an AI companion over humans.
Hmm.
At some point in time, it would be really interesting to circle back and find out of those people who prefer AI companions, how many of them are also lonely?
Yeah.
right? How many of them are also lonely? That would be really interesting because one side of me says that a lot of them
Hmm.
will consider themselves lonely, but another side of me says maybe not.
Yeah, because it depends on how you define loneliness too. That would be a big factor in people's response. So,
So what do you tell people in terms of, first of all, we've talked about the significance, the importance of connection.
hmm.
Um, how do you, when someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, you know what? I get it. I understand it. I'm one of those people who uses technology. I'm one of those people that don't get out
Yeah,
and
yeah,
actually work with people. I don't feel comfortable. And, my social skills are not that great.
right.
How do you tell them to get started? What do you tell them? Or
Yeah, I've
what
been
do you
asked.
not tell? Don't I hate that word tell.
Yeah,
What do you
yeah,
share
yeah. I
with
know what
them?
you mean.
What do you share with them?
I've been asked that a lot. And the thing that seems to be most helpful for people who are asking that question is to just encourage people to take a small step. It's not about all of a sudden you got to have 50 friends, or
Right.
even you got to have 5 friends. Maybe just have one initially. And the small step would be take a risk. You know, think about someone in your life, just just one person in your life that you'd like to have a little bit better relationship with. You just like it to be a little bit better than it is. Maybe a lot better, but maybe a little bit better.
And it could be a family member.
It could be a family
Could
member,
be
it could be a
anybody.
spouse, it could be a child, a parent, it could be a coworker, it could be, I don't know, a friend,
Past
whatever.
friend. Yeah. Yeah.
But just think about just one person that you would like to have a little bit better relationship. Ask them to meet you for coffee, or if you can't do that, talk to them on the phone or something. Connect with them somehow and have a conversation and just chat and all that stuff. But at some point in the conversation, take a risk. And for some people, this is going to sound like a gigantic risk. For other people, it's going to sound like not that big of a deal. But the risk would be in some way, and I don't want to give people the words to use, but use your own words. But in some way, say to that person, "Hey, I would like to I'd like to have a little bit better relation. I'd like to take this relationship to the next level. Whatever language you want to use." Um, and I would like that. I'm not sure if you would like that or not, but I just wanted to let you know that. And if you're interested in that, let me know. And a lot of times, not always, but most of the time, the other person's going to go, "Yeah, I would like that too. What would that look like?" And then you can talk about that and do that. I'll give one other example of taking a risk.
Can
Yeah,
I just mention something?
yeah.
Something that happened to me. When I did retire, uh, one of the guys in my company who I knew but I didn't work directly with,
Mm-hmm.
he was one of the tech guys. He calls me up and he says, "Hey John, can I buy you a cup of coffee before you leave?" And I said, "Sure." So we met in a coffee shop. And this guy is not the most extroverted guy in the world, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "I want to stay in touch with you." And I said, "Great. I'm on LinkedIn and, here's my email address." He goes, "No, no, 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 no. No, you don't understand. I want to stay in touch with you." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "You're talking about finishing a book. You're talking about launching a podcast. You're talking about all these different things you want to do in your life.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stay in touch with you and make sure you follow through with them."
Wow.
I said, "What?"
Wow.
He says, "Yeah." He says, "Because I've known so many people who have had dreams and they just went away by the wayside." I said,
Wow.
"So what are you talking about, David?" He goes, "I don't know. He says, "Let's meet once a week." I said, "Once a week?" He goes, "Yeah, let's." And I said, "David, I won't have things for you once a week." He goes, "Yeah, so we'll talk on Zoom and it might be a 10-second call." It might be a 10-second call where we go, or where you say, David, I don't have anything for you. And go, okay, see you next week. So he approached me from the standpoint of wanting to help me.
Mm.
I couldn't deny it, right? And
Wow.
we met every week. And my goodness, I got my book done. I launched my podcast. I'm launching this nonprofit that we talked about. And that man has kept me on track. And
Wow.
he has become one of my treasured relationships. And I
Wow.
share that because, people out there might be going, yeah, but you know what? I mean, we're going to go to a coffee shop and we're just going to look at each other, right? I share that experience because offer a give. When you call
Yeah.
somebody and say, "Hey, listen, how are you doing? We haven't talked in a long time," and try to find something during the conversation, and the conversation starts with, "What are you up to?"
Yeah.
Right? And maybe
Yeah.
part of that conversation is, "Hey, how can I help you?"
Exactly. How can I be a gift
Right?
to you?
What do you mean? How can you help me? Well, you know what? I mean, whatever. How can I help you? How can I?
Yeah.
You got something going on in your life that's really important.
Mhm.
How can I help?
Yeah.
And
No, it's so
and
good.
and you start with a give.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I'll tell you something, you know, I know that David doesn't do that with everybody. And it took him, his name was David. It took him a little bit of courage, right? Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
I was this guy in the company at Expedia Group that, I was an executive and pretty well known in the industry.
Hmm.
And here he is coming to me saying, I want to help you,
It's
right?
great. I love it.
And I'm like, wow. So you don't, part of it is you don't have to be thinking about executives to go after. Just think of somebody who you'd like to
Had a
get
little bit
connected
better
with.
relationship with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just during a conversation, find something where you can say, how can I help you? How can I help
Yeah.
you do that?
No, I love it. It's great.
You know? And then you'll have something in common.
You know what's interesting, John, is when you're talking about David, you've got a lot of passion behind that.
Oh,
And
totally.
one of the
Yeah.
things I like to say is that there is no passion without risk. And that just, I find that so true in so many areas of life. That's how we find passion in our work. You got to take some risk, you got to do something different. That's how we find passion in our relationships. I'm a person of faith, so I think that's true in our relationship with God too. Sometimes people will come to it, they'll be like, "Man, I just don't have any passion for God anymore." I'm like, "Well, when was the last time you took a risk with God?" You know, that's what faith is, right?
Interesting. Yep.
And but you know, there just isn't
Wow.
any passion without risk. And oftentimes, I'll just share this little illustration here real quick. But if you see a young couple and they're super passionate, they're like they can't get off the phone with each other, or they can't stop texting at night, or they can't say I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, and it just makes you want to throw up. But they're so passionate because they have risked everything. They have risked their full heart. They pushed the chips to the center of the table. And if you see that same couple a few months or a few years later, and there's no passion anymore, I will guarantee you somewhere along the way, one or both of them stopped risking their heart. And that's why passion dies in relationships. That's why passion dies in friendships. That's why passion dies in marriages. Because at some point we stop risking our heart, usually because we get hurt and we start building walls and putting walls up and protecting ourselves.
Right.
But
Right.
there's no passion there. It's dead at that point. It's only when we risk
Interesting.
that passion comes back into anything that we're doing, but especially relationships.
You were talking about your relationship with God and um and how passion goes away. One of the reasons why passion goes away is because someone does you harm and
Yeah,
you build
sure.
up you build up these walls.
Yeah.
And I think about forgiveness, right? Forgiveness breaks down the walls.
Oh, yeah.
And but you know what? Uh one of the things about forgiveness, and it's in the Lord's Prayer, it says, "Forgive us as we forgive others." Basically,
Exactly.
forgive
Exactly.
us as we forgive others.
Yeah, you better be careful praying that prayer, by the way. It's a
Right?
deal.
Exactly. It is a deal. It is
God forgive
totally a
me
deal.
in the
Yep.
same way I'm forgiving these other people. Whoa, wait a second.
Exactly. 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 And people even don't even know they're saying it when they
Right,
say it,
right.
right? But when you think about what that means, that is a risk.
Oh,
That is a risk. And you take that risk of forgiving somebody. Um, and we can talk about forgiveness for an entire episode, but
yeah,
it's
for
not a
sure.
matter of overtly going to that person and saying, "I forgive you." It is forgiving that person in your own heart, right? And
Yes.
and if you can do that, that if you could take that risk and you can get through that, all of a sudden the walls come down.
Hmm.
And a friend of mine who's a pastor once said that forgiveness is a greater miracle than the parting of the Red Sea. And and we learn all, I mean, we're talking about all this has really been fun because we're talking about all kinds of uh, uh, you know, angles, dimensions, and relationships.
Yeah.
And and I, I that this whole conversation is something that I think um, is my purpose.
Mm.
Is my purpose is bringing people together. I,
Yeah.
I I believe we all share a common purpose to make the world better than the day we landed on it. And I think it's all about love. It's all about bringing people
It
together.
is. It really is.
And you and I in that mission, we all are going to be more challenged with it with the rise of artificial intelligence. But I do believe that if we're successful, the world's going to be better than it's ever been.
I hope you're right. I hope
You
you're
know,
right. That'd
I
be
mean,
amazing.
there's just so much division today. There's just so
Oh,
there, um,
oh, it drives me
that
crazy.
we have to bring, we have to find a way. We all have to find a way, and uh, just to, I've always felt like you lift a person, you do lift the world.
Hmm.
And we just work on it one person at a time. And if we can
Yeah.
make one person's life a little bit better, wonderful, right?
Yeah.
If we can help
Yeah.
people make connections, um, and and encourage them, and again, folks, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Relationships and building strong relationships, I hope you've got this from this conversation so far, isn't easy.
No.
Okay. And if you're feeling like you're the only one feeling lonely or feeling intimidated by building relationships, you are not alone.
Not
There
at
are
all.
millions of people just like you, right? Because it does take sacrifice. It does take a little bit of pain. It does take some risk, right?
Yeah.
But on the other
But
side of it,
anything that's worthwhile requires all those things.
exactly, exactly. And so we've given folks uh, you know different ideas to kind of shift. But just for me, I also think it's important for people to be aware of what they're doing with AI,
Mm.
right? And one of the things that I've always believed is instead of living your life day to day, take some time, some alone time, and instead of living your life based on the circumstances, take some time and design it.
Mm.
Design your life.
Mm.
Figure out what you want your life to be like. Figure out the
Mhm.
person you want to be.
Mhm.
Figure out where you want to be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and go do it.
Yeah.
Right. And when it comes to your social circles, make that part of it.
Yeah. People often, ask me, well, how do I get friends like what you're talking about? And I'm like, be that friend. Be the friend that you want to be. Be the friend that you want to have, and you will never lack for friends. If
Be
you're the
my be my David,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
If you're the
Be
person
my
that
David.
if you're the person who's making other people's lives better, you will never lack friends. That won't be your problem. You may lack boundaries, but you will not lack
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
friends.
That's when the pendulum shifts going
That's
the
the
other
other
way,
side of the
right?
story. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you don't want to be in a place where you're being taken advantage of,
No,
right?
no, no,
But you want
no.
to you
But
want to you want to be in a place where you have substance in your relationships.
you know by now that I love quotes. So I'm going to give you one more quote.
Yeah.
It's not original with me, but I love it. Do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. I love that. Like when it comes
Okay.
to relationships, do for one what you wish you could do this for everybody. I wish I could give $1 million away to whatever it is. But I can do that for somebody in my house. I can do that for my next door neighbor. I can do it for somebody at work. I can do for one what I wish I could do for everyone. And when you do it for the one, as you said earlier, you're making the world a better place. And
Y-
it's worth it.
You know, this is going to sound a little bit off the wall, but I think of world peace.
Hmm.
Everybody says world peace. I want world peace. That's something we want for everyone, right? Well,
Right.
what if you just give peace to one person?
Yeah.
Give
Yeah.
peace to one person. And what do I
Yeah.
mean by that? You know, um, there's an old song called Let There Be Peace on Earth
Hmm.
and Let It
And let
Begin
it
with
begin
Me,
with me. Yeah.
right? I used to think that let there be world peace and let me be the catalyst to start it,
Hmm.
okay, to make it happen.
Hmm.
And about 10 years ago, I realized that there's a different interpretation to it. Let there be peace on earth, and let peace on earth begin with peace in myself,
Mm. Mm.
to begin with my own peace.
Hmm.
And it shifted my life
Wow.
when I thought about that. And I went, how can I give peace to others if I don't have peace in myself? How
Yeah.
can I love others if I don't love myself? I mean, it's
Yeah.
those pretty deep conversations. And so, I kind of have lived my life when I'm not at peace with myself, I literally challenge myself and I say, why are you not at peace? And I have been finding myself giving that just naturally to others. What are you upset about? Why are you upset about it? What if? What if we did
Hmm.
this? And it kind of changes the dialogue. But
Yeah.
I love what you said. Do for one person what you would want to do for the entire world. And in
Yeah.
my case, give one person peace, right? And help
Yeah.
them, help them, help them with peace. Whatever's bothering them, upsetting them. And you know
Hmm.
what? You're not like Keith just said, if you do that and you're helping others be better,
Hmm.
you're not gonna have a problem with with having people around you.
No, not at all. Everybody's going to want to be around you
Yeah,
because that's what we're
yeah.
all looking for.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful, Keith. I've loved this conversation. We've gone across all different kinds of different directions with this conversation. But the bottom line is this: get connected.
Yes.
Okay, get
Yeah.
connected, and especially in the world that we live in, and realize that technology is kind of an opposing force.
Mm.
Um, get back playing outside. You know what I did the other day? I bought a bike. I bought a
Hey, I'm a
bike.
cyclist. I love
Are you
that. That's
really? I bought
awesome.
a bike. I hadn't ridden a bike in 30 years. But get out, do stuff, go to the
Yeah.
park, go swimming, do whatever, right? And just start getting connections and start small. Start small. It
Yeah.
might just be a phone call. But even
Yeah.
a phone call is risky. I get that.
Yeah.
All right. Keith, close us out.
Oh man, you mentioned forgiveness, and my wife's tagline on her emails is "Love well and forgive often." And I just want to I don't know who might be out there and you're struggling with some unforgiveness in your heart. And the truth is that it's only hurting you.
Yeah.
The other person probably doesn't really care, honestly.
Right.
And when we
Right.
hold on to unforgiveness, it really is damaging to our soul. You know, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, all of it gets damaged when we hold on to unforgiveness and bitterness. So if you struggle with that, I just want to say forgiveness is really, it's not easy, but it's really simple. And it really just means to let go. It's,
Yeah.
I'm going to let go of this. You don't owe me anything anymore. So if I owe you $100 and you forgive my debt, what does that mean? I don't owe you $100 anymore. That when you say I forgive, it doesn't mean what they did was okay. It doesn't mean it's all right. It doesn't mean you approve of it. It doesn't mean any of that. It doesn't mean you're even letting them off the hook. It just means that they don't owe you an apology or to change their life or to fix anything. And you're not going to let them and their issues hold on to your heart anymore. I'm
And you're
letting go.
not, and you're letting go of that burden.
I'm letting
You're
go of
letting
that
go of that
burden,
burden. You
and
know,
I don't want to carry that anymore. And,
there was a, Mhm. Sorry, go ahead.
sometimes it's really hard because it's super, super painful, which is why I think, people will say, well, I can't forgive. And I'm like, you're probably right. That's why you need God. So that's just my opinion, but I don't want to get preachy, but God's love is infinite. My love is finite. My love
Yeah.
runs out. His never does. So I'll
You
just leave
know,
people with that. And I think
well,
it's just an
I
important
want
thing.
to share a little story on that
Yeah.
involving my mom. My mom was married to my dad for over 40 years, and it was not a good relationship. He
Mm,
was emotionally abusive to my mom.
mm, mm.
And one day my dad was going into surgery, and he had a 2% chance of surviving it. And we were waiting for him, and uh, procedure happened, and we were waiting in the waiting room. And I turned to my mom and I said, Mom, she says, yeah. I said, I want you to do something for me. She goes, yeah, what? I'll do whatever you want. I said, I want you to go in dad's recovery room. He's out. He's in intensive
Hmm.
care, the whole
Hmm.
thing. I want you to take his hand and I want you to look at him and say that you forgive him for all the torture he put you through
Wow.
for 40 years. And she literally recoiled. She
Bet.
recoiled. She says, I can't do that. She says, how am I going to forgive him? I mean, this is 40 years of pain. And so we went back and forth, and finally she says, fine, I'll try. So she went into his room, and 10 minutes passed, 20 minutes passed, 30 minutes passed, 45 minutes passed. And finally, about an hour later, she came out into the waiting room. And I looked up and I saw this woman who literally looked like she was 35 years younger.
Wow.
She was a different person.
Wow. I
And she
love that.
sat down and I said, Mom, are you okay? And she's just in this mental state of kind of bewilderment. And she says, yeah. I said, what happened? She says, I did what you asked me to do and I forgave him. And she said, and when I forgave him, I felt like 40 years of pain and burden and my suffering was just lifted off my shoulders. And I gave it back to him. She says, I realized that when I forgave him, I took that burden and I said, Frank, I'm giving it back to you. I'm not going to carry this anymore.
Mm.
And my dad actually survived it. He beat the odds and he survived it. And we went on and she treated him very, very differently. And her life is completely different life. It was wonderful. So I wanted to share that story because
That's incredible. That is
it
incredible.
was unbelievable. It's just a really wonderful thing. And so, but I'll tell you, folks, as we move forward in this new unknown world that we are now in, the world is going to change faster and faster than ever before, and we're going to need each other more than ever before. And so I feel like, Keith, your book, again, Keith's book is Unknown, Finding Connection in a Disconnected World. Um, what an amazing, amazing, timely gift that is.
Here's what it looks like.
That's what it looks like right there.
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess they could pick it up on Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. Pretty much anywhere books are sold. Certainly
Okay.
anywhere online.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And wow. Keith, thank you for joining me. I'd love to have you back sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to
This
come
is
back. This has been so
this
fun, John. Really,
Yeah,
really
and
fun.
this is a really deep kind of conversations that I feel like if people can hear over and over and over again, um, it could make a difference. It could make a difference, right?
Yeah, and just so people know, because of what we talked about at the end, the last section of the book is about when relationships go wrong and how do we find resolution and forgiveness and things like that. So that might be
Yeah.
helpful for some people.
And here's the other thing, folks. Um, Relationships do go wrong.
Yes, they do.
They do go wrong. But you know what? When they go wrong, we learn more stuff from them,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it's that learning. It's the sacrifices. It's sometimes the pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
boy, oh boy, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing. And that's what we're all here for. That's the bottom line. Keith, thank you. I love you. God bless you. Thank you for joining me and sharing your experience and sharing your book. And all you folks out there, thank you for joining us. I love you. God bless you. Please share this because there's folks out there that are lonely, that are looking for ways to um, build their humanity and have better and stronger relationships. And this might help them. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
see you next time.
Thanks,
Thanks.
John.